As some of you know, there's different types of investments for different types of people. Like some people think saving money is a great investment, so you put money in the bank. Now, for most people with very limited financial training, that's really a smart investment for them. You know, you put in, let's say, $100,000 and the bank pays you 2%. Now, you may think that's exciting, but why would somebody put their money in the bank? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Another type of investment is turn their money over to a fund manager, and maybe they might make a whopping 5%, maybe 10%, and some people tell you that's good. So the average person has heard from many so-called financial experts that the way to get rich is get out of debt, cut up your credit cards, save money, put your money in a mutual fund, invest for the long term, buy, hold, and pray. And for people with limited financial training, that is excellent, excellent advice. But personally, I would not want to follow that advice. Instead, my rich dad trained me how to find great investments.
The question is can we still find cash flowing properties? I found it in 1 minute. I found this property and it was all on there. I'm just trying to show you how to do this. But regardless, you're going to cash flow, let's say somewhere about $500 a month, $400 a month, $300 a month. Still good. I'll show you how.
So there's 4 great advantages to real estate as an investment. Number 1 is you have income every month, which means you can soon quit your job if you want to. Number 2 is that you have tax advantages. You know, there's so many tax advantages too. Number 3 is you have depreciation, right, which is another form of tax advantage. And number 4 is you have capital gains. So you have money coming in, government's giving all these bonuses. Right. You have all these gains that are somewhat tax-free, and on top of all that is the banker will lend you money for real estate. So in finding a good investment, one of the first questions you need to ask yourself is, what's my experience? What's my education? And how good a manager I am? Because if you're a bad manager, all investments will be bad.
And that's exactly true of real estate, because Robert, you and I love to find properties that are mismanaged, because normally then we can get it for a lower price, and we do have the team now in place. I certainly didn't when I started out, but we now have the team in place that can turn it around and make that property run very smoothly.
You guys have all heard of Zillow. It's really evolving into all kinds of stuff, and so are a lot of other platforms. So these are available to you, and you guys can do all of this from home. And so I started to find properties that were low price, that had big rents. And so the number 1 thing that I want you to know is that what you're trying to look for is a large gap between the rent and the mortgage. And how do you know where the mortgage is? And so that's the big question, because a lot of people, they don't know. And so here's the cool part. This is actually the best part. So Zillow actually shows you right here the estimated payment for this house at $110,000 is $499 a month, the estimated mortgage payment. So you already know this. You already know that with 20% down, your estimated payment based on today's rates is $499 a month. There are some steps you have to do later to verify this information, but this is a great example of a property. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,320 square foot home. So this property isn't particularly beautiful, okay? So as you guys can see, it needs landscaping, it needs some basic TLC, that's for sure, but it is for sale for $110,000. So now let's take a look at what Zillow thinks the estimated rent would be. And this particular property, based on the rental value, this property rents for about $1,200. Now, you have to verify this yourself, okay? But this information is on the internet. I found it in 1 minute. I found this property, and it was all on there. $110,000 for the house, $499 for the mortgage payment, and $1,200 for the rent. Look at this property. It's not bad. The kitchen's nice. You know, the living room's nice. It's decent. It's a rental. Don't get too concerned about the way it looks from the outside, because you can clean that up with just some basic landscaping. But here's the point. What we're trying to do is look for a large gap between the rent and the mortgage, okay? We know the mortgage is $499 and we know the rent is $1,200. Obviously, you have to verify both of those. But this is a very good start. The difference between $499 and $1,200 is $700. So you have a $700 window to work with. That is potential cash flow. Now, it's not going to all be cash flow because there are expenses. We're going to go into that next. So here's another thing on Zillow. They gave me this monthly cost. Principal and interest is $380. Property taxes, $81. Home insurance, $39 a month. Now, again, you got to verify it. No HOA, that's good. Utilities are paid by the tenant. Okay, so they give you a breakdown, and that $499, to my surprise, actually includes property taxes and homeowners insurance, etc. Now you gotta take a look at, okay, what are the other things that it might not consider? All right, so we know that the rent's $1,200, but you got to add some vacancy in there, and this, of course, is going to be market to market and based on the demand for the property, and this might kill it. So in other words, there might be 50% vacant in that market. You would want to stay away. But there might be 100% occupancy too. This is something that you need to check. But for purposes of this video, I did 1 month over 12 months of vacancy. 12 months at 100 is $1,200, so $100 a month. So I added a vacancy in there of $100 a month. I took the principal and interest, the tax and insurance, which is $499 or $500 a month. I added $100 a month for repairs, and I said, you know what? I can manage this one myself. It's just one property. If you don't, you need to add that in. So with repairs and vacancy, I cash flow about $500 a month or $6,000 a year. Okay, this is on the internet right now. I'm not going to obviously buy this property. I'm just trying to show you how to do this. Now, there might be other expenses. There might be other capital work. That's why I showed you that there was new roof, new flooring, new appliances, etc., because those are things that can kill you here because those are real costs. But somebody's already done that. There is some carpet and stuff that needs to be done, and maybe that's $1,000 or $2,000. But regardless, you're going to cash flow, let's say somewhere about $500 a month, $400 a month, $300 a month. Still good. These are positive cash flowing properties. I found this, guys, in less than 5 minutes on the internet. All I was trying to do is find a big gap between the rent and a big gap between the expenses and find a big cash flow. That's all I was trying to do. And so if I can do this, you can do this too.
The main question you want to ask regarding income on an investment property is how can I increase the income on this property? Because
or reduce my expenses.
Or reduce the expenses. Because if you can do that, then you ultimately increase the value of that property.
Again, it goes back to how good a manager are you. Now, you don't have to be the person that does the management, but you have to be in control of income and expenses, regardless if it's a business or real estate. In any market, markets move up, markets move down, and markets move sideways. They're called trends. So what you want to look for is the area, hopefully, that's moving up. Would you agree with that?
Totally, yes.
You know, like we always talked about, there's some cities where people are moving out of.
They're in decline.
Right, and people are moving into.
Right.
And generally, where would you rather invest?
Well, obviously where people are moving into. But the interesting thing is, unlike the stock market, where it's very difficult to know which markets are going to go up and which areas of that market are going to go down, with real estate, you can follow the trends because they're so slow to evolve. A city that's had high growth in one year is likely to have had high growth the year before and will have high growth the following year, and similarly those with slow growth. So it's very easy to figure out which cities and which suburbs within cities and which clusters of streets within suburbs are likely to do well in the future just by watching the past. And you don't get that luxury with many other markets. They're far more fickle and volatile.
Right. So in any market, any investment, you have to watch the trends. There's always 3 trends, up, down, and sideways. Another way people become very successful in choosing the area first is sometimes you look for an area that's been down for years, and suddenly it comes back to life again. Those are really good, aren't they?
They're great, and the trick is finding when it's in the bottom, because then it's about to take off.
And the prices are really low.
Prices are low. Most people make the mistake of buying when it's at the top. They think, wow, this is going really well, and they buy at that peak, and then the only way to go along is sideways or down again.
Right. And if you're just starting out, let me give you one more tip that I learned the hard way. My first investment property I bought on another island, in the island from Hawaii. So I had a problem in this piece of property. It meant I had to catch a plane, fly there, rent a car, and go check my property. And so this problem persisted for a while, and so for 2 days a week, I was getting on a plane, flying to another island, renting a car, look at this property. So that added to the next thing. If you're going to find an area, make sure it's close to your house. And so I would recommend this, is find an area that's you can even walk to. You know, in my book, I talk about how the first investment property that Kim and I bought together, I used to jog past this neighborhood. So if it's close enough to jog to, it's close enough. That's a great area. Or find an area that you can drive when you're, going back and forth to work. The reason is when you're first starting out, you're bound to make a few mistakes. So make sure the area is close by. It's another good choice.
And we had to look at 100 properties in 90 days. And he says, don't buy anything, just look at 100 properties, do your evaluation of each property, write a short blurb about it, why it's good, why it's bad. And it's at the end of 90 days and 100 properties, then you make up your mind if you're going to buy something. He says, if you haven't found one property in 100 deals, you start again. You start again with another 100. And that's why most people are not rich, is they're not willing to go through that process of looking at 100 deals to find one deal. And this sometimes, and you and I know, you look at a lot of frogs to find one princess. But when you find that one princess, everybody goes, oh, well, how do you get so lucky? Well, I looked at a lot of dirt dogs out there, Mm-hmm. And that's like anything in life. You don't marry the first man or woman you meet. Hopefully you kiss a couple of them, before you do.
I'd like to add that when you're finding your area and identifying pieces of real estate, this is where your broker becomes very important. Not all brokers are equal. Not all brokers have the same intelligence. As you're going through the area and looking at different properties, you'll soon find out the brokers you like and brokers who like you, right?
Right.
And then also, not all brokers work with investors. Most of them work with home buyers, especially the first time. So there's, the kitchen's important. How pretty is the paint and all that. Well, we don't care about that. So on top of finding the right broker, you have to find one that understands you, and hopefully is an investor himself or herself.
Right. Most brokers that understand you, that have the same mentality, are investors. And don't ever be put off by a broker who is an investor. Don't think, well, if there's any good deal that comes along, he'll take it for himself. No broker can buy every deal that comes across his desk.
Yeah.
The advantage of a broker that does invest is he understands the mentality, he understands what we're after, that we don't care whether the deli on the corner is good or not. We just want a good deal.
Yeah, investors think different than home buyers. Real estate agents focus on the house and not the market. So what I'm watching for, or listening for, hoping to hear is I have a real estate broker who is the same thing with me, is they're looking at the area first, the property second.
Exactly.
Do you care if the property is ugly?
Not only do I not care, I like it if the property is ugly.
You like problems, right?
Well, they're not problems to me, they're challenges. You see, if there are problems, they're perceived problems, then everyone else values that property very lowly.
Right.
But I know that for a very small expenditure, I can massively increase the value of that property. So I love challenges.
Right. So that's why I say to people, fall in love with the area, but not necessarily the house. In fact, a lot of times I look for the best area with the ugliest house.
Right.
And only at that point do I start looking at multiple properties. I don't want to get attached to any one. Is that correct?
Correct. And you have to look at a lot of properties. People make the mistake of looking at 2 or 3 and trying to make a decision. You've got to look at dozens and dozens, and all of a sudden one will pop out as being spectacular.
Yeah, sometimes you walk into a property that's not even listed just because you're looking around the area.
Right. It might be for sale by owner or something like that, or people hear that you're looking to say, well, actually, my cousin's got one for sale. I wonder what he wants for it.
Right. So after you find this area, you become this expert, and once you become this expert, let's say you're jogging or riding your bike around, and everybody knows you're looking for investments, suddenly people start giving you all these great deals on these properties. So that's the next step. After you've identified the area, then you start looking for the properties, and oftentimes I don't really care if they're bad. In fact, some of them can be too bad or too broken, but you're looking for problems sometimes, or sometimes they don't have to be a problem. It's just great deals. Rich Dad said, real estate is wealth. Those that control the real estate control the world. Rich Dad would break out the Monopoly board game, and we'd play Monopoly. So for months, we'd just play Monopoly, having a good time. And finally, I started to see it. I said, 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. When I was 19, I came home from school in New York, and Rich Dad owned the Big Red Hotel right on Waikiki Beach. He had gone from poor man to a very rich man in Hawaii in 10 years. That hotel just sold last year. He paid $1.2 million for it. It was a lot of money back in 1968. He just sold it for $800 million. You see, the beauty about real estate is you learn to use debt to get rich. I'll give you another tip. If you're going to be rich, you have to learn to use debt. It's called other people's money. So when I hear poor people say to me, I don't have any money, I said, because you're an idiot. That's why. You're not supposed to use your money. You're supposed to use other people's money. Well, that's debt. I don't want to do that. And so they stay poor. There's 4 types of people in business in the world, anywhere. Spain, US, China, Japan. There are employees. Employees have a mindset. Employees all over the world say the same thing in their head. I want a safe, secure job with a paycheck and benefits and a pension. They all say the same things. Japanese, Espanol, American, Filipino. And this is small entrepreneur, small business, or a specialist like a doctor, lawyer, attorney, real estate agent, massage therapist, web designer. S means small, self-employed. These people violate Rich Dad's lesson number 1. They work for money. These are the people that pay the taxes. That's why you don't work for money. These people don't pay taxes. In your country, in my country. It's the same. And these people are big business. So this would be like I own a clothing store in downtown Barcelona or Madrid. This is Zara, different mindset. This is a person with a small restaurant. This is McDonald's. This is a small person with a coffee shop. This is Starbucks. I don't work for our money. I don't have a paycheck. That's why I'm rich. I don't want a paycheck. I don't need a paycheck. If you can not need a paycheck, you have a better chance of getting rich. Become an entrepreneur. The people who are the biggest winners are people who know how to use debt to get rich. Debt is money. After 1971, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, money became debt. And so the people who are losers are savers. So as Kenny says, you put your money in the bank as a saver, Kenny goes in and borrows it out as a debtor, and we use that money to buy millions of dollars worth of real estate. So Kenny just went over $1 billion worth of real estate using debt. And my first property was $18,000. But I took a 3-day real estate course. It was a very good real estate course about how to use no money to buy real estate. The property was a little condominium, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, $18,000 US. It was on the beach of Maui. The reason the price was so low is the market had crashed. Smart investors always wait for the crash. So this thing crashed. I had to look at 100 properties once I left the class, 3-day class. I had to look at 100 properties in 90 days. So with this here, the instructor said I had to buy the investment for 0 money. Okay? 0 money. Most people will tell you, I can't invest because I don't have money. That's a loser. This was 1974. The dollar had just gone off the gold standard. Everything was coming up fast. So I had to figure out how to buy it for 0. And the reason I say that is most poor people always says, I can't afford it. I know some of you right now say, well, I can't afford it. I don't have time. I have children. I have a job. I have bills to pay. And it is those excuses that keep you poor. If you do not change that talk in your head, you'll always be the poor person. So there was about 32 in my class, 3 days long. I think only 3 people completed the exercise. We went, we looked at 100 properties, wrote a 1-page report. At the end of the 90 days and 100 properties, this was the best property. So I went back to the person, and it was in bankruptcy. It was right on the beach, just as pretty as this beach here. And he said I had to have $2,000 down. This is called equity. Again, it's the language of money. So I have equity. The bank was going to lend me $6,000 in debt. Right? That was the deal. Now I had the $2,000 in cash, but the name of the game or the exercise was, could I buy it for 0? So what I did was I paid for this property with a credit card. So now it was $100% debt. Okay. With that 100% debt, I made $25,000 a month. Boom. I was a free human being. I never needed money again. If you can make money with no money, that is called an infinite return. Because I have no money in the deal.